Good afternoon, and thanks for clicking on to the long range discussion for Monday, the 28th, in fact, of May. And you're actually currently looking at the off Dr. Ryan Murray's site, polyclimate.com, the last 45-day trend of the NAO and AO. And the reason why I've pulled this up, folks, is it's actually been the winter time since the last time I pulled this map up. And it's interesting to note various features on this graph here, this chart that indicates the trend that we've seen over the past few months back, all the way back to October, in fact, of the NAO. And what's interesting here is that when we correlate back to periods of cool and unsettled conditions across the UK, and as well as that, of course, across parts of North America and the eastern part in particular, but also across the UK, we're going to be looking at this and looking and seeing where the warm spells were as opposed to the cool unsettled spells. Now, of course, we'll remember back to the month of March, where we see some tremendous amounts of warmth for especially for that time of year across the British Isles. We've seen record-breaking temperatures across parts of Scotland, and we also seen that tremendous heat wave across the eastern and central part of North America. Notice here, the North Atlantic Oscillation, a measure of sea surface pressure between Iceland and Portugal. Generally, when you've got a positive North Atlantic Oscillation, you've therefore got a trough over the North Atlantic region over eastern North America, and as well as that over western parts of Europe as well. Now, of course, a negative or a positive NAO doesn't necessarily mean you're going to have a strong area of high pressure directly over the western part of Europe and over eastern parts of North America. It just doesn't work quite as simple as that. But certainly, when I look back at a very, very warm Christmas period, check out the NAO. It was very, very strongly positive, and it was very positive from about, really, late November right through till a period in February, just at the beginning of February, or just slightly at the end. In fact, it was after the 20th of January, we started to see a return to colder conditions. Well, I say a return to colder conditions. In fact, the winter really wasn't cold at all. But certainly the latter part of the winter, we of course seen that cold spell, both over England in particular, and as well as that, remember back across parts of Europe as well, we've seen a tremendous Arctic outbreak. Check out the NAO, it was negative. The general warm winter, and of course the warm Christmas, it rocketed way up towards 4, while during the cold spell across during February, we've seen it drop below the neutral line, so it was negative. Correlate that back to the very warm March, it was positive. Then, of course, we've seen a generally unsettled April. That, of course, actually shows an up and down of the NAO. And then, of course, we've seen a spike during the latter part of this month, which, of course, correlates to the warm period that we've just seen. So, what's my point here? My point is that every time that we've seen a positive North Atlantic Oscillation, we've seen a warm spell, we've seen region of high pressure over the western part of Europe. So my point is that basically I'm looking at this and saying to myself, the next time the NAO goes positive, I would be starting to look towards region, and as well as that, warmer weather over the UK, more settled conditions. Now the NAO is actually going back into a negative again. Now let's have a quick look here at the spaghetti plot. This is the NCEP GFS ensemble. Ensemble means you've got a collage, a collection of various models that basically is a spaghetti plot. It shows all the various different models and the trend, what they portray the NAO doing. But you notice the general overall trend is marked in this little circular line here. Now, of course, we've just seen a positive NAO. That has correlated beautifully with the warmth over central parts of North America and towards the interior east. And as well as that, of course, we've seen some brilliant warmth over the UK. Now, we are going to start to see the trough dropping back over the UK over the next 48 hours. We're going to be seeing temperatures pegged back by some, 10 to 12 Celsius during tomorrow, as opposed to the mid-20s that we're seeing across central parts of Scotland southwards today. Notice that the trend goes back into a negative again. That would indicate a more persistent area of troughiness, unsettled weather, cooler weather, once again for the British Isles. But if you notice that here, by the latter part, once we start to progress towards mid-June, we could be looking at a return to a more neutral, if not positive, NAO. That, of course, would suggest to me that we're going to start to see a return back towards a warmer, settled pattern again. So certainly prepare ourselves. We're going to see much cooler conditions across Scotland over the course of tomorrow. I'm going to have a quick look and show you here off the upper level chart of the ECMWF, and you can see what's taking place here. We've actually got a cold front that's now working its way down through Inverness as I speak. We're seeing temperatures north of Inverness that were only 14 or 15 Celsius today, as opposed to areas south of Inverness, we're seeing temperatures into the low and mid-20s, and of course here in the greater Glasgow area, we're seeing temperatures right up into the high 70s, which of course was around 25 to 26 Celsius. So glorious warm sunshine yet again, and of course we're going to be seeing into the evening hours, we could be seeing some thunderstorms pop up, especially down across the south of England, working its way up through the Midlands. We could be seeing some very powerful thunderstorms developing as that cooler air starts to push in through the upper levels. That, of course, raises the lapse rate. What does that mean? It means to say that air rises vertically from warmth at the surface vertically upwards, and then of course as it meets that cooler air, it forms clouds and it builds vertically those thunderstorm clouds, those cumulonimbus clouds, way up into the atmosphere, into the very frigid upper atmosphere, and that of course can kick off some torrential flooding downpours, gusty winds, large hail, and it certainly could see some dramatic lightning displays across parts of southern and central England this afternoon. Tomorrow it will be something similar. We're going to be seeing temperatures once again into the low 20s, I think, while we see Scotland dramatically cooler by the day. By the time we reach tomorrow afternoon, Glasgow, Edinburgh, you folks aren't going to be seeing temperatures above 16 Celsius, as opposed to the 26 we're seeing this afternoon. Let's skip through the sequence and see what takes place here. You can see here the trough starting to work its way south, lower in the heights, much cooler air in the mid and upper levels. That, of course, will support much cooler air as we progress towards the end of this week and into the weekend. Check out the greens, check out that northerly flow working southwards. We're going to be seeing some cool northerly winds. After a few cloudy days, folks, we're going to start to see high pressure start to build back in for the end of the week, but highs are going to be suppressed. They're going to be in the low and mid-teens, unfortunately, by the time we reach the weekend. This is, of course, for Saturday, the 2nd of June. And it certainly is not a very impressive picture. If you like the sun, it has lasted well. By our standards, folks, don't fret too much. I actually think this has been quite an impressive late May warm spell, and especially compared to what we've seen the first 18 days of the month, when we've seen, of course, cold, we've seen areas of snowfall. I remember the -6 Celsius morning driving down to Dumfries. Gone is those memories when we've seen 8 days of mid and upper 20s. But certainly over the course of the next several days, this is going to be the building of a new pattern for that might last the first couple of weeks of June. But certainly what I would suggest is this, that we could be looking, if that NAO, we'll be watching the trend, of course, and you can check that out off polyclimate.com, off Dr. Ryan Murray's site. We could be looking at warmer conditions by about mid-month onwards. Something similar in time frame to what we've seen during the month of May. But certainly that's what we'd be looking for warmer weather once again. Look at the trough. Going is the high pressure from the northwestern Europe over. Notice how there's an area of low pressure, this upper level low, is basically dominating Scandinavia, and it extends all the way down, covers the British Isles and Ireland as well. So going is the heat. over the course of the next 24 hours across Scotland. That will then push southwards, and eventually the gone will be the low 20s even across parts of the south of England by the time we reach Thursday. So keep checking back. There's a lot of things to talk about. There's a lot of things to look at. I've got a brand new website that's coming out. I hope to, I'm hesitant in saying this, but I hope to get this up and running perhaps by the weekend. I will be leaving blogspot.com, and I've got a much, much better website that will be available to you. I'm very excited about it. There's going to be so much more available information for you. Going to be looking much, much more into the long-range forecasts, looking at the models. I'm going to be showing you the models of long-range stuff, even looking into next winter. Yes, there's a lot of things to look forward to. Hope you're enjoying the rest of this sunshine. Make the most of it, and have a great evening, folks. Bye-bye.